all doing the same job, all laying bricks, building a building. And she says to the first bricklayer, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And maybe you've heard this story before, but the bricklayer says, "I'm earning a paycheck. You know, I stack bricks one on top of two, make some money, pay the rent." She's like, "Great, great." And curious as she is, she turns to the second bricklayer and says, "What are you doing here? What are you doing?" And he says, "Well, this is my craft. I love this career. I love the artistry of it. I love how it all comes together, and I've dedicated my life to it. And I just love the work." Two different people doing the exact same thing, two fundamentally different reasons for being there. Third, she goes to the third bricklayer and says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Oh, step back, look at this. We're building this beautiful concert hall where one day musicians and theater performers and speakers are going to come, and they're going to fill this room. And people I'll never see, never meet, will be touched, moved, and inspired. And that's what I get to do every day, is build these wonderful edifices that are going to allow community and connection." Three different bricklayers, all doing the same thing, three completely different reasons for being there. So let's take another 20 to 30 seconds, maybe write down what connects you with being here. Why did you choose? Why is it important that you chose to be here? And I'll play DJ a little bit as well. There we go. Give you a little journaling music. Love it. Cheryl put, "I'm still learning Michelangelo," age 89. Jimmy says, "Because I like to be with people who are smarter than I am." And you're going to get more of a chance to do that here in a second, Jimmy.
You can barely hear your sound, which is something that I'd like to get better at, to where I'm playing something.
Yeah, I'm working on a solution for how to make the music better. But
Even
yeah.
if I share my screen and I'm playing a video, I'm trying to find a better solution so I don't have to like crank it.
Yeah.
Can I ask, are you using Zoom? And are you setting up and clicking the button that says share my computer's audio? Because that's a button you need to check. Otherwise, it's going to be like from over there and not come out of your system, as long as you're playing it from your system.
Yeah.
So not same as system, but share.
Right. When you hit share screen, at the bottom left corner, it says share computer sound. You want to check that box every time you share a screen.
At the end of this,
we're going to do some tech stuff a little bit later. So let's hold those opportunities for them. Excellent. Here's what we're going to do next. Dawn. We're going to go into we're going to go into groups of 3. And what I'd like you to do in those groups, we're going to, and there may be one group of 4. In groups of 3. And what I'd like you to do is each person is going to share what came up for them, why it's important that they chose to be here. Let me share with you why we're doing this. There's a study by McKinsey talking about collaborative learning environments. And one of the things they said was, when we connect to a higher sense of purpose, the more frequently we connect to a higher sense of purpose, the greater the interaction patterns become between people. And so we're setting that up right from the very beginning. What we're going to do is we're going to have one person share, and I'd like, as best as you can, to keep this under 1 minute. Why is it important that you chose to be here? And then what I'd like is the other 2 people to reflect back. So the first thing is you're going to share. And the second thing is we're going to just, I'm going to do this a little bit. We're just going to reflect back, something that touched us, moved us, inspired us, and encouragement we can offer that person. And I'm just going to let you fill in that little heart there, however you'd like. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. 7 minutes. I'll give you a few countdown markers in the Zoom chat as you get to meet, and this is one of my favorite parts, is discovering who is the magical Zoom room going to connect me with? Who is my new friend going to be that I'm going to meet in this room? So we'll see you back in 7 short minutes. There we go. Eric and I are dancing. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. All right, you guys took that one all the way to the bitter end. I love it. I love it. Hey, here's what I'd like to ask you. I'm gonna have a few of you raise your hand, get a cue to share something that came up in your group or something that somebody you'd like to appreciate or something you learned. But before I do that, here's what I'd like to ask is check in with yourself right now. Think about what we've just experienced in our first 26 minutes together. What is something that you felt? What's like the energy been like as we've gotten started? Whether that was reflecting on the question that we had a few minutes ago during the journaling time, or whether it was sharing in that small group. And go ahead and type in the chat a word or a phrase or a sentence that describes what you felt, what you've experienced, something that you can notice about the way we've been interacting over the last few minutes. Yeah, Rosie said she enjoyed the breakout rooms. Cheryl said she's proud. Barb says engaged. Yeah, Barb, I love that. And if everybody could just type something in there, a word or a phrase. Jimmy loves the collaboration, the interaction that Brooke had. That's very good. Very good. Chris says the energy, right? The very thing you were asking for, Chris. How can we get the energy going? A feeling of community. Oh, okay. And then Sandy had a quick note for Erica. Great, yeah. Donna, like-mindedness. How great is that? Yeah, that comes up a lot, right? That there's some similarities that come up. Here's what we've been noticing, and I've done this hundreds of times, and one training organization that I've been learning this from has done this over 7,000 times, this interaction pattern that you just experienced. And overwhelmingly, these are the things that get described. A sense of community, a sense of collaboration, a sense of connection. And that the human animal so desires that sense of connection and community. And we were able to create that together in just 28 minutes. But it's not the default, is it? It's not the default, right? As Chris was mentioning, sometimes you feel like you're just like giving out every bit of energy just to drag people along, right? And yet we were able to create that. And we're going to show you some of the mechanisms we've used to do that and why maybe that worked and maybe sometimes why it doesn't. So great. I'd love for a few people. I know I saw some raised hands. You can also, I don't know if you've ever done this before, you can raise your hands by going down to reactions at the bottom of your screen, and there's a button where you can raise your hand like that, and it'll help form a little bit of a queue that makes it easy for us to follow along, make sure everybody has a chance. Cheryl, you wanted to share something, and anybody else? Heidi wants to share something as well. Cheryl, you want to go first? And you're muted at this point. Usually when you come back from breakout rooms, the default that we have set is that everybody will be muted. So
there we go.
Yeah.
One thing that we were talking about that we agreed about, and that might be somebody else in here is working on, is how great and vast our GRI community is, and how wonderful it would be if we created a referral network that also, that like CRS has a great referral network. You can go anywhere and type in for a CRS agent, and this would be a motivator for agents to get their GRI designation, would increase students in our class. So, and I think Jimmy might have more to add on that.
Yeah,
She
I
wasn't
love
even
that.
in my room.
That's perfect. Yeah. I know we're working a lot on, I'm actually in that subcommittee. Yeah, Jimmy, you wanted to,
Excellent.
Jimmy, and then we'll come to Heidi.
Yeah, the subcommittee that Josh and I were talking about right before class, um, the whole theme of that subcommittee with the professional development key committee is elevating GRI. How can we make it better? And one of the suggestions that we've come up with is how can we create a GRI referral directory just like CRS has? And we've talked with Erica about that, and we're not sure how to do it, but we're going to figure it out. And I know like states like Washington have not even been doing the GRI program for a number of years. So, you know, we can control it. I think in Oregon, we can figure it out, but we're probably not going to get it on a national level, unfortunately.
Yeah. Heidi, you were going to share something.
Well, I just give it a thumbs up. I understood that we could use your reaction. That's all. Thumbs up.
Ah, understood. Awesome. Anybody else want to share something that they heard, shared that touched or moved or inspired them in their breakout group? Barb, did you want to share something?
Yeah, I found it really interesting to see that Brooke is here from Ohio, right? And I just love the ability to increase not just for our participants within the state, but throughout the country. You know, it wasn't very long ago, I was teaching one of the designations, I think it was the PSA designation, if I remember correctly. And I actually had a gal there from Pennsylvania. And now she was auditing the class, but it really kind of mind blown, you know. And so now I've started kind of thinking of doing some teaching in other states and things like that without having to, you know, set it up as travel and those types of things in this weird world that we're in at the moment. But it's really mind expanding to think of the possibilities that are out there now that, you know, would have required a lot more setup and a lot more I don't know, abilities than what we have to have now in order to really make this successful.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so excited about that ability to expand our reach in such great ways. Erica, you get the last word.
Okay, well, I was just going to say I'm really grateful for everybody's like willingness to learn and eagerness to learn. I think that's phenomenal, and I'm just grateful for everyone's commitment to this program and to being an instructor here with Oregon Realtors. I was going to share my reason for being here is I wanted to, you know, have a better connection with our instructors, and I wanted to learn more about like what is important to you all, what is working, what isn't, and also I'm eager to learn more about how we can better do online classes. So I'm excited to learn from you all as well, and I'm really just grateful.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Erica, I have to give you a huge shout out. Erica is a master project manager. She is so organized, and what she is doing for us for the professional development key committee and what she's doing for all the classes in her role. Erica, you are just awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to take that soundbite and send it to Jenny, just so you all know. No.
Perfect. Well, maybe Jimmy can send that to Jenny. That would be great. Thanks so much. Well, what I'd like to share is kind of pull back the curtain a little bit on some of my thinking and what I've learned about creating these interaction patterns in Zoom. And the reason that I'm excited about it, so I was part of a national real estate expansion team. An expansion team just means we had multiple locations. This wasn't brokerage, this was actual like sales teams. And we'd centralized operations and administration. And then we had sales teams all across the country, like 20 locations in 13 states, and I was the training director for that. So I've been on Zoom for about the last 5 years, where I would be spending sometimes 15 to 20 hours a week on Zoom training agents. And so when the pandemic happened, and it's like, oh, we're all going to Zoom, I'm going, great, this is right in my backyard. And then have learned even more actually as Zoom improved their technology. It's made it like some of the ways we can interact so much better. But at the end of the day, it's still humans. It's still human beings. Like the technology doesn't change the fact that humans interact in certain ways. And one of the things that we learned, and I forget the guy's name, is from one of the VPs at Google, is he was describing the rate of change in the world and the fact that the rate of change has been going up exponentially. Who feels like they've experienced that? Like, wow, the world is really changing fast. Yeah, raise your, yeah, perfect. And yet our ability to adapt to change is maybe only incremental. And so as individuals and small systems, we have surpassed the point where the change in the world has surpassed our ability to adapt to it. And in a world that's simpler, in a world where change isn't happening very much, you can have a teaching experience where a few people have all the answers, right? You will sometimes hear this called the sage on the stage model, right? We're moving into a world though where knowledge and wisdom and intelligence is distributed, right? It's out there, and we've moved into a world where all of us are smarter than any of us, right? And together, we know more than any individual can. And so knowledge has moved from few to the many. And the way to move from here to here to unlock that collective intelligence and wisdom is by asking really good questions, right? Now you experienced one of those questions already, right? You experienced this question right here. And just to put a name on it, right? This is a purpose question. This is a purpose question. By the way, there's lots of ways you can ask this. This is one of the simplest, but I could have asked it a different way and said, think of a story that describes or demonstrates why training is so important, right? Can everybody kind of, I mean, maybe immediately you thought of a story. Can everybody think of a story that demonstrates why training is so important, why you've given part of your life and your career to training? Absolutely. So there's lots of these. We actually have identified 6 different categories of questions that help people connect to a sense of purpose. And so questions can unlock that collective intelligence and wisdom. And so I want to share with you a model that can maybe help you think about creating these environments inside of rooms. And so this is what we call the 3C model, the 3C model. And the first C is content. And when we think of training, when we think of learning, this is typically what we think of. This would be intellectual capital, right? This is the actual material, the meat and potatoes, the information that's going to be exchanged. But the second thing that we have is we have, excuse me, not community, I'm writing it down wrong. Yeah, we have connection. We have connection over here. And this is social capital, right? This is the part that happens around the coffee station in between sessions. This is the relationships that begin to get built. And really, this is people having a sense that like, yeah, I belong here, right? Like, or not so much that I belong here, but like, this is a place that I want to be. Where we really get the sense of belonging, though, is when this becomes community. When this becomes community, I truly belong in this room. And this is communal capital. One of the ways that we can do this in our learning environments is to begin to move our learning from passive to active. From passive to active. So about 4 minutes ago, this class switched to a passive learning mode. Now, as a trainer, I know that I've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 11 minutes with American adults right now to stay in this passive learning mode before suddenly it's like, well, what's on Facebook? Let me check my email real quick, right? Like, and here's the other thing that I know is that learning just flat out doesn't happen here. There's a little bit of an opportunity for me to exchange knowledge, but actual behavior change and learning doesn't happen until you are able to reflect on it and integrate it into your experience. So I'm going to move the learning from passive to active. The next thing when it comes to connecting over here is we really need to move the learning from experts to the crowd. We fundamentally don't trust experts as much as we used to, right? We've seen a lot of that this last year. We don't, right? And we really believe in distributed knowledge and wisdom. When the printing press came out, there was a huge distribution of knowledge. It went from a few elites out to the world, right? In a pre-literate culture to a literate culture. The second printing press is the internet and blogging and YouTube, right? Where now everyone is a publisher. Every single person is a publisher. If you posted on Facebook, you're a publisher, right? And now the expertise has moved from a few elites out to the group. And so just as a quick example, right? Like, who was it that was asking about, Cheryl was asking about, I can't get their audio to play on my computer. I don't know how to do that. But Donna does, right? The fact is that the 10, 11 of us are smarter than any one of us. And so I really love the fact that I can with confidence say that I will never be the smartest person in a room that I walk into. And the last thing when we talk about connection and community and helping people have a sense of belonging is moving from the individual to the community, right? And how do we create a sense, like many of us walk into a room, many of our learners walk into a room because of something they want, right? For an individual reason. And we talk to them a lot about their individual real estate businesses. But we can also end the day with a deep sense of community, And so one of the ways that we did that with our first interaction pattern was something that we call, let me change colors here, something that we call purposeful connecting. And the way that we did that, we started with a question, right? We started with a question, and then you'll remember we moved into groups of 3. And there's a lot of power in a group of 3, right? This is when you actually begin to have a sense of community. And then from there, right, we came back to a large group share. Now, this is a little bit of a different group, right? That in that we're all trainers, we're all pretty comfortable sharing and communicating, but who's ever asked a question in a class and gotten crickets, right? Well, a couple of reasons that sometimes happens. One, different learning styles and behavior patterns is we want to give people space to think on the question in journals. So you remember that when I asked that question, right, what did I do? I gave you a little bit of time. I gave you some thought joggers, the 3 brick layers, way to think about it. Yeah. Then when we got into the group of 3, right now you're able, this is a really intimate environment. It feels safe. It feels comfortable, right? And now we can get to large groups. She's pointing at the heart. Are you pointing at the heart, Cheryl? Okay, got it. And now we've been able to unlock more people sharing, right? Nearly everyone on this call has already come off mute and spoken at some point, and almost everybody has typed into the chat, and we've done that in just 45 minutes. So again, we're going to move from passive to active. We're going to move from experts to crowd, and we're going to learn from individuals to community. And this is one of the ways that I've been designing the classes that I've been working on, whether it's GRI or other classes, to create that higher interaction. And the feedback that we're getting from the learners, one is, I didn't realize it was going to be so interactive, right? I mean, you've had students who've shown up, they're just there to put in their time and suffer through 6 hours to get their CE. And they were like a little bit taken off guard, but then they end the class by saying, wow, I built some relationships. In fact, something you were talking about earlier, everybody's box moved, so I'm trying to remember who it was that shared it, but and then Jimmy echoed it, was the referrals. Is that we've already experienced referrals happening simply because people built relationships in some of the breakouts. So what I'd like to do now is go a little bit deeper into how we can really grow as trainers, how we can create some of those by showing you a different interaction pattern, but also doing double duty, which is helping you tap into what makes you such a great trainer. So would that be a good use of our time? I did want to get your permission on something. We are here for 3 hours, and I know there's, you know, potty breaks that need to happen and that sort of thing. Let me say it another way. The class was scheduled for 3 hours. I only had planned for 2 when I first connected with Cheryl. Goes like this: I've never had anybody mad that I ended the class early. So we will end early. It'll probably be a little closer to like 2:05 or 2:10, 2 hours and 5 minutes, 2 hours and 10 minutes, something like that. But we will be done well before noon. Is that everybody okay with that? And so given that, what I'd like to ask your permission to do is to just blow right through the breaks. And if you need to go, you know, take a nature break, please do that. If you need to stretch, stand up. We're all friends here. You can do that, whatever you need. Does that work for anybody, or does anybody like, no, I'd really have a formal break? Okay, good. Then we'll do it that way. Awesome. Hey, let's get into our next interaction. I think you guys are going to enjoy this quite a bit. We're going to move into paired interviews. And I'll share with you in a second why we call this an interview. I'm going to put you into groups of 2, or pairs is what we call that. And you are going to, one person is going to interview the other. They're going to interview the other. And here's the good news. I have the questions for you. The first question is this, tell me a story of when you've been at your best as a trainer. Tell me a story of when you've been at your best as a trainer. Question number 2. What is your superpower as a trainer? Right? As we're putting together the equivalent of the Avengers in training, right? Such an aggressive term, right? The Justice League, the Hall of Justice for trainers. What is your superpower that makes you such an amazing trainer? And here's the third question. Imagine it's a year from now. It's April 2022. Boy, this last year, if nothing, has taught us how different things can be in just 1 year, right? So in 1 year, it's April 2022, and you are celebrating your best year ever as a trainer. So we're keep this in the context of training. You are celebrating an amazing year. What are we celebrating? As you imagine your future as a trainer, what would we be celebrating? Now, this is an interview. It's not a conversation, right? An interview differs from a conversation, doesn't it? Because in an interview, I am staining curiosity. I'm asking questions. I'm probing deeper. Whereas in a conversation, I'm saying, "Oh, Heidi, you have that superpower as a trainer? Me too," right? There's always this like back and forth, and right, we're going to stay in a posture of curiosity. We're going to give someone our full presence and full attention during this time. At the end of the interview, and this whole interview from beginning to end, from these 3 steps plus the 4th one that I'm going to give you, should take about 10 minutes. Did I do 10? Yeah, 10 will be perfect. At the end, the interviewer is going to say this. They're going to say, "Thank you. The greatest gift that you gave me was," and then finish that sentence. So we're going to appreciate and thank the person for the gift that they gave us in that interview. And then at that point, you can imagine, you can guess, we're going to switch. We're going to switch. Okay. Now, it's important. I do need to ask Katie Moore, are you going to be participating right now in one of these interviews? Would love it if you could. Don't know if you can even hear me. So Katie steps in to facilitate sometimes, but then sometimes is attending to other things away from the computer. So no problem. I will jump into one of the interviews with you. So let me build those. Katie, I need the hosting back for this room because I can't put people in breakout rooms without it. And Katie's not listening.
I think it was Erica, and she said she had to step away for a few minutes, and then it changed to Katie's name.
Yeah, and then Katie took over the hosting.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have Katie's cell phone number that they could call her? Let's just get.
Yeah, I've got her. I'll text her right now.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you for your help on that.
Yeah.
Let me. I'll share with you while we're doing this. I'll explain to you why we do this exercise. So one, obviously, it creates connection between people. But here's the other psychology of some of it is there are 3 questions, and you'll notice the temporal location of each question is past, present, and future. Tell me a story that's in the past. What's your superpower? That's where how we visualize ourselves in the present. And then the celebrating takes us into the future. You'll notice that all of these questions are positively oriented. They're talking about your strengths. They're talking about where you're great at. This comes out of a interaction pattern called appreciative inquiry. So this isn't about what are your weaknesses, what do you need to work on, where do you need to grow, right? This is where you're already great. When we look at primary, secondary education, we're primarily looking at filling in people's weaknesses. But when you start working with adults, the stronger move is to double down on your strengths, right? And hire for your weaknesses. Okay. And so what we're doing is we're helping people tap into what they're really strong at, what they're really great at, right? And so that's some of what this does. Oh, hey, and guess what? I have good news for everybody. I am now the host. I have all of the power. All right. Let me see what those rooms look like. And then I will join in. I'm going to be with Sandy. So Sandy, I'll be joining you here in just a minute. Enjoy your breakout rooms. Now, a great way we found that seems to work a little bit better for Zoom when you go into your breakout rooms. Does anybody remember the old movie Wayne's World? Whenever they would do a flashback, they would go like this. They put their hands up. So everybody put your hands up in the air. It's okay. This is a safe place. And you go like this. You go, and then here comes your blue button. And who are you going to be matched up with? So exciting. So you'll need one hand to click the blue button.
So I think we were ahead of schedule, and then it had a leave room button on there. So we were too early, right?
Yeah. Oh, so you guys did both interviews already?
We did do both interviews.
Well, are you super speedy?
We talk really fast. Sorry to interrupt your time.
Not at all.
That was our superpowers. We both think and talk really fast, so it was very easy.
So you
Very
can
good,
take
very
us
good.
back out if you want, or
No,
I
no,
can
you're
run to the
fine, you're fine. No,
restroom.
honestly, Katie and I mostly just chat during this time. Sometimes I have work. I have things to do to set up the next segment. What I was telling
Okay.
Katie, okay, this is totally like funny. So the state of Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife has a turkey reservation program. So there's private landowners who've said, hey, if people want a turkey hunt on our land, they can, and you reserve it through a ODFW thing. They release the new sites, the new reservations for 2 weeks out on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Well, as I was filming, and my son and I have tried, and we keep missing it. We keep missing it. It's like trying to buy rock concert tickets, you know, they're just sold out in like 3 minutes. And we keep missing it. And I'm like, oh, I'm teaching a class. I guess this isn't our week. And then when I was building the schedule today, I'm like, perfect. The paired interviews are from just before 10 until after 10. I'm going to jump over and do the reservations. But then we lost somebody, and there wasn't a partner for one of the people. So I had to jump into the interview. And when we came back, I got on, and they're all sold out already.
Oh,
So it was like, missed again. But
You're just bouncing all over.
did you?
so, hey, Chris, I wanted to talk with you about energy.
Yeah.
About energy. So when I, and this happens to me live, and it happens to me on Zoom, but it especially happens on Zoom, which is I would end the class and I'm exhausted. Like I've sweat through my shirt and I'm just like beat. And I would, you know, if I'm traveling, I go to my hotel, I can't even move. My wife she just knew. Any day you teach, like you're just worthless after that.
Yeah.
Then I started doing some of the stuff you're experiencing now. And all of a sudden I end my calls. I'm like, that was an amazing call. She's like, you've been on Zoom for 6 hours straight. How are you doing this? And I'm like, oh, interesting. Let me think about it. So here's what happened. When I made the move from, sage on the stage to guide on the side, if I could say it that way, from like I'm the expert to they're the experts, one, like the pressure on me went way down. Like my anxiety level and my desire to perform went way down. So that was one thing. Second thing, and you'll notice this, I've been talking today for less than 20 minutes, right? We've been in this for an hour and 10, and I've spoken for, let's say, 30% of the time.
Yeah.
Versus typically it would have been inverted. Like I would have put people into groups, I'd be speaking 70% and they'd be speaking 30. So when, like this exercise right now is 20 minutes in a breakout room. And you should see now, I'm pretty animated right now, but a lot of times, like I'm like this. Everybody's in the breakout room and I'm just like conserve energy. I just go into a power down mode. And then like you heard me playing the happy music. So I literally have a playlist on Spotify that's called High Energy. And it's just songs I love that are like pump you up songs. So I'll start playing those a minute before we come out of break. And then everybody comes back, right? And then, so that's the second thing. And the third thing is, so that's all about me managing my energy, right? Mm-hmm. But the third thing is I realized the energy in a room, it's way easier to create it out there than it is to put it out there. So when I put you into a group of 3 and you're all chatting, energy is being created, but it's not taking any of my energy to do it. When I put you in pairs, you and Rosie, look, you guys came back and you're like, oh, we talked too fast, and and you guys were chatting and you're smiling and you're happy. There's a ton of energy, and here's what's great. It's actually filling my tank.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So awesome. So you don't actually go into anything. So you don't go, because I go into the breakout rooms to sort of supervise. So what you're saying is use that for your downtime to get ready for the next session.
Now I'll go in, like there's an exercise that I do that's really complex, where people are in groups of 6.
Yeah.
And so I'll pop into those to check in on them. These paired interviews, I did a paired interview because we didn't have even numbers, we had odd numbers. So I'll do that. But no, for the most part, I want to give super clear instructions. And so even like physically in a room, I'll set it up. I may walk around a little bit, but I intentionally sit down. Like I'm just real careful about, you know, my body, monitoring my body, because 8 hours on your feet is brutal.
Yeah.
Although you're kind of a standing desk guy, huh?
I have a ball and a standing desk. I go back and forth.
Oh, you go back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is water, but I'll just drink my tea or drink my coffee, and man, because there's so much energy being created.
Mhm.
The other thing that's interesting when you go into say like a working group, you got say 5-6 people in a group. As soon as you as the instructor enter into it, you now become the center of focus, right? So because we're so primed for the expertise model, right? I mean, I almost call this like the priest model, right? That is moderating between us and God, right? As the priest, as the trainer, I'm the high priest moderating knowledge to you. Rather than this guide model, but students aren't ready for it. And so you almost have to be intentional. Like when I work with like brokerages as an example, I go in and teach, or I'm helping them build a new culture or build new values or things like that. People still look to the principal broker, right? Or they look to the owner of the brokerage. And so I have to actually train the broker when we start the class. I go, hey, I'm going to put you into breakouts. Here's the first thing. Don't talk. Don't talk at all. Now, so let everybody else talk before you do. And then when you talk, the first thing I want you to say is say how someone else, right? So if I'm telling you this, Chris, I go, Chris, here's going to be the most powerful thing you can do, is say, when Rosie said this, it really got me thinking, and it opened my eyes up to something new, or it changed me. This flattens the hierarchy, because now the leader is communicating that feedback from, right, regular people actually influences them. So talk last, give power to the other, and now all of a sudden it elevates them. And so as an instructor, like I'll check in, are you guys doing okay on time? Do you need anything? How's it going? This is how much longer we're going to be in this group. Oh, I got to wrap these calls up. Let's see, we'll say 2 more minutes.
Do things. Thank you. I'll do a bathroom break while you have to do a little administrative.
Yeah, go for it. Oh, that's the other thing I use the breakouts for.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I use those for that. Perfect. All right, I'm going to close these rooms. And now here's another little trick for you, Chris. I let those rooms go long. I shouldn't have. I should have cut it short. But you can tell how good the interaction is by how quickly people come back. If they save it till the bitter end, it's like nailed it. And leave them wanting more is a great way to go.
Nice.
So, yes. Oh, we got to get our music. Hold on. We want this song right here. You guys are going to love this one. Anybody know it yet? You'll get it.
Walking on Sunshine.
There it is, Donna.
I knew that on one note.
Knew it on one note. She's our champion.
You want to hear a funny story about that? My husband and I we were in Singapore, and we were at this bar, and this cover band was playing songs, and they were playing songs like that. And my husband goes, the next song's going to be Walking on Sunshine. I'm like, whatever. And then it was, and I was like, how did you know? And he kept
Premonition.
the song. Yeah, and I'm like, what the heck? And he points over at the playlist on the stage. It was taped right there what they were going to play.
He never should have told you.
I know.
Wow.
He's like, what's the next song going to be? I'm like,
he like kept doing it all night. Like
he did.
I love it. I went to, has anybody ever been to the amphitheater in George, Washington? They call it the Gorge at George.
Yes. Yeah.
It is unbelievable. If there's a concert you're interested in going to, just go there. But don't go for just the concert. Like go camp at the campground, walk to the venue. It's amazing. So I went there for a Jimmy Buffett concert. That was crazy. So we get there and we were like general admission seating. So we're like supposed to sit on the grass in the hill. But we ducked through the rope line and got to where the chairs are. And we just walked to the front because we look back and there's literally miles of people. I mean, it looks like Moses leading the Israelites across the desert. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
miles of people walking to this venue. And so we're like, hey, we'll probably get through the first 2-3 songs before the people who have tickets show up for the seats. Let's just go up front and see how long we can sit here. So we get up, we're like in the 3rd row, and somebody shows up, it's like, you got to go. And so we go back, and there's seats open on the 6th row. We just step into them. And these are like, like $200, $250 a seat seats, which shows you that it was the 90s. And we'd gotten in for like $15 or something for general admission. And nobody ever showed up. Nobody ever showed up. We watched the whole show, like from there. And same thing, Donna, we could actually see the set list. It was in front of the horn section. This is me being the horn section for Jimmy Buffett. I don't know why.
It works. I got the visual. That was awesome.
Works. But yeah, same thing. It was super fun to know what was coming. They even had the encore songs like written on there. So great.
Of course they did.
Hey, who met somebody amazing during their interview? I did. Yeah, by the way, there's a little trainer trick for you, Chris. Who's not going to raise their hand on that one? They know
Right.
their buddy is watching. Right? And I also know that it's true that you guys met somebody amazing. So who would like to come off mute and just share something that touched, moved, or inspired them in their conversation? Yeah, Cheryl.
We had such a connection. I think it was divinely guided that you put us in the same room. We got so much stuff done, and I learned amazing things about Jimmy Couture. I think the greatest gift that she gave me that I'll share, the one I can share,
Secret ones too,
is what you just completed doing. It's like you told us a story, you locked us in, and gave us an emotional connection. Which I love that she does that in her classes. And so, think of anything emotional that's happened to you throughout your life. And you can, like, a song that relates to something emotional or something like that. It's locked in forever.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much. Hey, let's do this. Let's give Cheryl and Jimmy some love and appreciation. I'm going to teach you one. Here we go. Here's how it works. Ready? Rub your hands together like Mr. Miyagi. All right. And that was an 80s reference for the youngsters in the room. We're going to rub our hands together. We're going to give them an energy bomb on the count of 3. So you're going to go like this. You're going to go on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Whoa. I actually got a little bit of the extra on that one. That was amazing. Good job, you guys. Feel that through Zoom, through the interwebs. Who else would like to share something that they learned, something that they appreciated, that they got from this? Yeah, Rosie.
Chris and I were interviewing each other. When we shared our superpowers, I thought it was interesting that one of Chris's superpowers is making complex ideas simple.
Ooh.
And I had shared that my superpower is intensive preparation and organization and details. So it kind of felt like our superpowers were on different ends of the spectrum, but like really both so important. So we're going to teach a class together soon.
Wow.
So that the
I love
attendees
it.
can
That's
get
like,
some of both.
Yeah. That's like powers activate, right?
Wonder Twins activate. Another old school.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna everybody, we're gonna give a fist bump to Rosie and Chris. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Boom! Right there, in honor of the Wonder Twins activate.
Nice.
Move. I love it. Thank you so much, Rosie.
Yeah.
Great. What else? Who else would like to share something that touched, moved, or inspired them during that time?
I will. I was with Barb, and one of the things that she said her superpower was that she's fearless when she teaches. as
Mm.
far as her approach. And I just appreciated that as a general comment, because I know sometimes I can get into my head a little bit more than I'd like to, or focus on how something might turn out if you're doing a group session or whatever it is, and how it might turn out. And it was wonderful because I got to ask her all sorts of questions because we finished early. So it was really good conversation and I appreciate
Isn't
it.
that great? Yeah, we had a few people who ended way, way early, but it was great because we were able to have some additional conversations that were really, really powerful. Excellent. So for Brooke, here's what we're going to do. Let's give Brooke, we're going to give her 2 snaps on the count of 2. So ready? 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. Kind of went slow jazz on that one, Brooke. Boom, she likes it. All right. All right. Excellent. Excellent. So, hey, we're going to do something interesting. I want you to check back in. That was something that came up. It was really important that Cheryl mentioned about Jimmy, which is that Jimmy creates environments that tap into emotion. On day 1 of Sales 101, so many years or decades ago, you were probably taught to move from features to
Come here,
benefits.
Bogey.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a layer to that, which is that really great salespeople move from features to benefits to emotional benefits. You see, when we're talking about now, sales, by the way, is the same as training. You are selling all day long because you are constantly enrolling and re-enrolling your learners into what you're trying to accomplish and where you're trying to go. Okay, so all the skills, the great skills you have as a real estate salesperson are the same skills that you can, or some of the same skills you can use as a trainer. When we look at why people buy, the reason that they buy is that there's a scale inside of them. And on one side of the scale are the dominant reasons to avoid buying, right? The dominant reasons to avoid buying. By the way, this works for listings as well, right? When you're sitting across the table from a seller, they are buying your services, right? So they have a list of reasons that they're not going to buy. And then there's another scale that is their dominant reasons to buy now. And the weight of the dominant reasons to buy now needs to outweigh the dominant reasons to avoid buying before they'll get there. But these actually are 2 different things. And they are the emotional reasons to buy and the logical reasons to buy. And what many of us do is we start with the logical reasons to buy. But humans, and would you agree that most of our learners, as well as most of our buyers and sellers, are humans? I know some of you work with engineers and accountants. They're maybe the exception, but the rest of us work with humans. No, I'm teasing. Even engineers and accountants do it. They just don't acknowledge it, which is that we actually make the decision to buy or enroll in a class or stay engaged in a class. We actually make a decision to buy emotionally, and we justify that decision with logic. We do not make logical decisions and then feel good about it. We feel good about it, and then we go, okay, now what? What's my reason? And by the way, if you've ever talked yourself into buying something you knew you shouldn't buy, that was logic justifying the emotional decision that you'd already made. I could tell you all about the truck that I bought just recently at Skyline Ford in Salem. It's a perfect place. Check it out. And so that ability, Jimmy, that you have, that superpower to create emotional connection and to create emotion in your people, that's what's going to actually move them to action that changes their career. And we could talk all day long about the good reasons that you should maintain a database and keep in touch with it. But until we tap into the emotional reasons to do that, they won't do it. They won't do it. So great job on that. But now, for that extended rant on emotions, let me ask you this. During that interview, and actually let me step back from this a little bit. Thank you for giving someone the gift of your attention and presence. Thank you so much for doing it. There is a massive lack of attention and presence right now in the world. Would you agree? Yeah. Who's, by the way, experienced that? Right? I'm guilty of it, right? This is why I leave my phone at home on date nights, is because I can't be trusted to give my wife the attention she deserves when I got my phone anywhere near me. So thank you for doing that for someone. How did you feel when you were being interviewed by the other person? And you could either come off mute and share, or you could type into the chat maybe some of the emotions you have, a word or a phrase.
Appreciated.
Appreciated. Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah. Heidi says comfortable. Who else would like to share? Chris says special and important. Yeah. I felt like they were truly interested. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. Valued. Excellent. Excellent. Anybody else want to share? So when we can create learning environments where people feel appreciated, comfortable, special and important, respected, Brooke says, valued, like the other person's, like other people are truly interested, special, important. Are these feelings that we have every day? Not really. Like not most of us, not, you know, not a lot of our people that are coming to, I hope you do. I hope you do. I have a 7-year-old daughter at home, so currently I do, right? You know, we'll see how that goes in a couple of years. Yeah, Sandy, like you're interested. And so when we can give our people that gift, think how powerful those learning environments are. Many of the learning environments that I used to teach, and I am totally guilty of walking into an 8-hour training and it being an 8-hour lecture, right? Because I'm like Chris, like I can go high energy if I want, I can do the dancing monkey thing all day long, right? And I love the performance of it. What I realized though is people were ending the class, they're going, that was great, you're funny, I like you. And I learned so much, I'm really not sure what to do next. And it was, have you ever heard this phrase? Like drinking from a fire hose. Is that a good feeling? Is drinking from a fire hose a good feeling? No, right? And here's what I did. I literally cut my content down to like only 20% of what I used to teach in the same amount of time. And ramped up the interactions in the room and the feelings. Because then people walked out and they said, tomorrow I'm gonna go do this. And I'm, by the way, and I'm gonna call Rosie and check in with her and let her know that I did it. And I started measuring my success, not by the surveys at the end of the day, but by 6 months later when somebody said, hey, I was in your class, I went out and did what you said, and I grew my business by 50%, right? And when we start to have that mindset, it'll help us engage people and connect with people in that way. Awesome. Hey, great job, you guys. Here's what we're gonna do next. We're going off script. Everybody okay with going off script? Give me a thumbs up, head nod, a wink, if you're on board. Excellent. And we're gonna go behind the camera. We're gonna talk about studio setups a little bit. I actually wanna share something with you, and I don't have the notes from it, from the class I taught yesterday. I don't have the notes, so we're gonna do it from memory, which is a little bit about thinking about this lovely camera that you get to work with. All right, I'm going to do it in 2 parts. One is going to be tech specific, like hardware, and then 2 is going to be something about mindset and soft skills. All right, and this will be a great time for other people to share some of their tech stuff. So let me run through some of my thoughts on technology, and the specific hardware that you use and how you can improve that may create better experiences for your learners. All right. So the first one is this, and I apparently need some work on it, Cheryl, which is audio over video. Audio over video. So when you're sitting there and you're thinking, all right, I need to upgrade my system a little bit, I need to upgrade my tech a little bit, what should I invest in? If you have $100 to invest, $200 to invest, your first $100 or $200 should be in improving your audio not your video. People will tolerate, right, subpar video if they can hear. They will not tolerate if they can't hear you, right? So upgrading, and actually one simple way to like just do both at the same time is like something like the Logitech Brio, right? An external camera, HD webcam, because it actually has really good mic in it, right? And then like Cheryl dropped down her like kind of podcaster style mic. I use a podcaster style mic. That's really, really valuable. Audio over video. Does anybody have any hints, insight, thoughts? That's why my sound is terrible. I've been on the wrong microphone all day. I've been on the wrong. Cheryl, does that sound better?
But that was so cool because that change was massive.
Yeah.
Yes, it sounds so much better. It sounds like you're on the radio and it's so smooth.
Coming in.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
huge change.
Yeah. Well, I apologize, guys. I totally screwed up all day. And the other thing is that this microphone was way over here, and I've been like trying to talk into this one to make it sound better, and I've actually been kicking myself in the teeth on. Oh, I know. I totally know what the mistake I made. Okay, my fault. And Cheryl, you're muted. Sorry, I muted you earlier because you were talking with your cat.
I know, sorry.
Not to worry.
It's her treat time. Anyway, tell us the mistake you made so we don't do it.
Yeah. So down in the lower left corner, you have a microphone, little microphone. That's the one you probably use to mute yourself. There's a chevron next to it. For whatever reason today, Zoom decided to grab this microphone. I actually have 4 microphones to choose from. And I had the wrong one selected. Yep.
So if I could ask a question then, if you have 4 microphones going, how do you keep from having a feedback loop or reverb or things like that? That's the one thing that I tend to get every once in a while, that if I ask the students to speak and they begin, excuse me, they begin to speak, then apparently other people can often hear kind of a feedback loop.
Yeah. So I only have one microphone activated, right? So Zoom's only pulling sound from one. Typically, if you're getting feedback from students, it's because they've logged in twice, right? They've logged in from their phone or they're sitting in a room with another student. If that's the case, one of them needs to shut off, interestingly enough, they need to shut off their speakers. Because your computer, Zoom knows, like right now, when Barb was just talking right now, that sound is coming out of my laptop. I'm going to move to ear monitors soon, but it's going from my laptop. The microphone knows not to pick that up, right? But if I'm using a separate device, that device isn't connected with this microphone speaker combination. Yeah, great question. Thanks, Barb. Anybody else have by the way, if you have a particular piece of technology that you use that you like, so now would be a great example. If you have a microphone you're using that you like, just type that in the chat. And yeah, Jimmy, the one I use, you know what I should do? I haven't done this in a while. I should put together a list of the specific things that I use. I don't get this question a ton, but every once in a while. And I think the other one's called the Logitech 920, but the Logitech Brio is a really good one. They were like $400 last year at the beginning of the pandemic.
Well, I teach the GRI technology class, and I always ask because that's a class I have to update every single time I teach it because things are moving at the speed of light, and equipment is stuff that's hard to keep up on. So I usually ask the class for suggestions, and yeah, whatever you guys have, I would love to add your suggestions to that class.
And Chris mentions the Blue Yeti. That's a fabulous microphone for like $80 or.
That's what I have.
Yeah, that's a great one. I have the Blue Nessie, which is a good one, but I need to get the mic, boom mic thing. And you can choose, like, if you want to be like the radio broadcaster, podcaster mode, like when Cheryl pulled hers down, or you can be off camera, either way. Cheryl, did you have something you wanted to add?
So right now I am on, it says microphone Realtek audio. So when I switch to my Yeti, I'll show you the difference. So now I'm on the Yeti. Do I
Yeah,
sound
your mic's too
different?
far away from you.
It's too far away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you get a difference now?
Oh, interesting.
know.
Can you point it toward you more? So I don't want to get too lost on this, but you know, I would play with it, Carol. What I would do is jump on Zoom and record yourself and say, you know, test 1, this microphone, test, and then move it. Test 2, microphone right here.
Good
Test
idea.
3, and then listen and then watch your video back.
Okay.
That's a quick way to go. The second thing, oh yeah, Rosie.
I just wanted to share really quick. We are kind of looking ahead to when we may be having hybrid classes where we have some people in a real classroom and some people on via Zoom, which is a whole next level of technology and equipment. But Zoom hopped on with us and gave us a class on what equipment they recommend and how to set up hybrid rooms. So I highly recommend connecting with your Zoom person and taking, we sat with them for about 45 minutes and just kind of went over how you do the hybrid well.
Oh, I love that. I love that. A couple other specific questions that people had. One was, and I'll take you behind the scenes here. One was about the document camera that I'm using, which is this one right here. This is called the IPEVO, IPEVO. IPEVO. The reason I have 4 mics is the IPEVO includes a microphone. And the value that I really like of the, oh, sorry, I didn't show it to you guys. There it is. There it is. So this is the IPEVO. So you can see I've got the microphone here. I've got the document mic or document camera right here. And when I use the document camera, it looks like this, right? So you can see what I'm writing. Now it's important that you don't have your video mirrored when you do this. So it's a few tricks, and I have to actually fix something. Maybe you noticed that. So see which side my bookshelf is on? But then when I go back to full size, see how it switched? So I've got some mirroring to fix right there. But the document camera, here's what I like about this versus slides. By the way, I have slides for a lot of this stuff. What I like about this is this will include your kinesthetic learners a little bit better. Kinesthetic learners don't have to actually be doing it themselves with their hands, right? But when you draw on the whiteboard, right, they have a kinesthetic experience. The other thing is, you know, you've seen people get lost in their slides before, slides that are too wordy. When you're writing it, you got to cut things down. You got to pare things down, make it real simple. When you're drawing, you know, models or diagrams for people to see, less is more. And so that's one thing. And then 2, it's like, you know, you can say, hey, and then here's a really good book that you can look at, and you can see how much more clear that is than me trying to get the focal length right with my heads up camera. So, so that brings me to another thing, talking about, so camera setup. Now I'm pretty amateur on this. I'll totally admit all this studio stuff is me going to YouTube University and cutting and pasting and stealing from other people. I've just been doing it for a while. So my camera, my main camera here is a DSLR, right? This was a nightmare to get set up. If you have a DSLR and it happens to have software that works really well, go for it. But if it doesn't, you know, I wouldn't spend I would rather spend more time on audio, my content and my skills, and maybe a few things on how to set up my camera versus going to a higher quality camera, right? When you set up your camera, and I've been actually, yeah. When you set up your camera, a couple things to think about. One is, and I tried to put the lines on the screen the other day, but I can't. But in videography, photography, they talk about something called the rule of thirds. So if you cut my screen in thirds, you can use these as guidelines, right? And you'll notice like this there it is. Can't do it in mirror. This plant right here, or this whatever it is, cute thing, is on that line of thirds, right? So that's like intentional. You'll also notice this one is on this line of thirds. When I'm presenting, I want my eyeballs at the line of thirds line. And they can either be centered or they can be right here, centered on the other third line, right? So I've got the horizontal, right? So that's two real great ways to capture people's attention. And then here's the one that's super tricky. It's really hard to do, particularly for those of us that are like high interactive types and people whose favorite word is I, tend to look at themselves on screen, right? That's actually pretty normal. So one of the things that I have to do is I have to center myself at the top of my screen, and it's only, I'll show you again over here, right? So if this is my screen, that's harder to do than I thought it would be. This is me, here's my camera. And the reason we do that, and so the first thing I said was audio over video, but the second thing I'll say is eyes over ears, which is really be thinking about what your eyes are doing. You've been in Zoom meetings with people like this, right? Hey guys, so glad you're here today. Really excited to be talking to you, right? And it feels weird. It feels weird. So take the time to set your camera up so that you're looking at it. And then the other hardware thing that I would recommend is lighting. Lighting over, like, again, don't make the $400 or $500, $600 investment to go to a DSLR if you have invested $100 or $200 in better lighting. And things like a ring light, or this is I have a 3-light setup. So a 3-light setup involves what's called a key light up here, right? So that's your main light. Behind this camera, I have what's called a fill light, and I'll show you what that looks like. So key light only, see how there's shadows on this side of my face? You fill those in with a fill light. And then the last thing I have is what's called a hair light or a backlight. And this one is subtle, but that's what it looks like without it. And then this is what it looks like with it, right? So this would be more of like what you'd get with a pro, like a pro photographer if they were setting it up. The backlight distinguishes you from the background, gives more depth of field. The main thing though is check to see if you're backlit. So if you're ever in a room where you have a window behind you, like black out that window. So Brooke, yeah, now you're okay right now, but let's do this actually, Brooke, point it toward the window like you just did. Now sit in it and see how much darker Brooke gets, right? And it gets worse. Like if you get further closer to that window, it'll get worse and worse. And so, yeah, now see how much more of you we can see. And so those are some of the things that we can be thinking about as we set up our studio spaces and our physical spaces. And then like Donna, you know, right, she's gone with the headset mic, so she's got really good audio and she can hear really well.
Well, because I'm in an area where people are walking by a lot and I didn't want to bother them, but
Yeah.
also I wanted to be able to hear you guys. I don't know that I would normally teach with this on my head, because in my own environment would be more like
Solo, yeah.
one-on-one, and so yeah, solo or one on the class. And so
I'll
yeah.
tell you what's so good too, because you've got a directional mic there, is we can't hear the people behind you. But I was on a call the other day with somebody who had a external microphone, like omnidirectional microphone. They had noise canceling headsets. They couldn't hear the 2.5-year-old yelling next door. All the rest of us could. And it was like,
yeah.
it was awkward.
Yeah.
So anybody want to add anything about tech, about studio space, about physical spaces for improving your presentations?
Look at Chris's message in the chat.
I can say real quick. I know you're hand drawing. So for in the spirit of tech, couldn't you just switch screens, draw on your iPad with your pen and change colors that way too?
Absolutely, you can. And I've actually seen people still use the document mic on an iPad. But yeah, either one of those works really well. Oh, this is the last thing that I was going to tell you. So the reason that I'm able to do that picture-in-picture stuff is super complicated and difficult and really a pain in the neck if you use PC, which is I'm using a program called OBS, which is Open Broadcast Studio. And I've spent more hours than I care to admit making this work. If you are on Mac, you want to get a program called Ecamm Live, and it is simple and intuitive, like all things Apple, and it just works really well for switching camera views, creating scenes. So like I can do stuff with, let me see if I do this, if I switch out it, here we go. Like I can set this scene to look however I want it to look, right? If I want this to be bigger or smaller, lots of options, lots of opportunities. I have a scene set up that's when we go to break. I would usually take an extra second to work on this, and it would look like, this, right? So back from break at 10:30, right? And that's just a fun, like, little scene that you can add. Don't kill yourself on that, but having that, or they have external systems that are called, it's called a switcher. And so a switcher, you just have maybe 8 or 10 or 12 buttons where you just press a button that sits outside your computer and everything goes where you want it to go. So,
real quick, can I ask you then on that? So that sounds like almost like switches on playing guitar or something like that. But
yeah. Same as like pedals.
So is that an add-in then? The Ecamm Live is an add-in to within Zoom, or is it a separate thing that you sort of have to get them to play together well?
It's a program that would be running on your Mac.
Okay, cool.
So it's a program, and then like when I do it, so I'll show you guys again, see if I can get behind the camera. And this is harder to do than I thought it would be, but so here's all of you, right? There's the camera you saw earlier.
You got to switch videos.
Reminder to be present.
We can't see what you're doing. You have to switch your video, I think.
And then this, oh, dang it. Now you'll see why. Okay, here's all of you. There's the camera. Here's my second screen. Sorry, it's mirrored, so it's super hard to do when I'm pointing it. And then this is OBS that I was telling you about before. And so like right now you're over here. When I press this transition button, it'll transition to this camera. So you're here. I'll transition to this camera next, or I could transition to the break slide, or I could, I could transition to my slides. I could transition to the overhead. But we'll just go back to this one. And like anything, there's a learning curve to it. But Ecamm does it, and it's a little more intuitive. Yeah, Jimmy.
Oh, I just have a suggestion.
Please.
I actually have 2 laptops side by side, plus I've got additional screens connected to one of them. And when I'm teaching, I often will log in one of the computers as a student and just mute it and turn off the video, just so I can see what the students are seeing as I switch back and forth from screen to screen.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's great. Thank you. Well, here's where I'd like to finish off, and we are going to end quite a bit early. Like I said, probably 5 to 10 minutes after the hour. Here's where I'd like you to go next is in your notes, I'd like you to write down one action that you would like to commit to coming out of this class. So based on what you've learned in the last couple hours, what's one action that you're going to go out and do that will improve your training, that will improve learner experience? I really believe that trainers have the ability not only to change their own lives through their training careers, but also change the lives of their learners and by extension, right, their communities and the larger world. What would you like to commit to that would make a difference for your people and for you? Give you a minute.
Are we to think?
Say again.
Are we writing it down?
Yeah, write it down. We're just gonna have some quiet, have some journaling time, a little zen, a little give you a little journaling music there. Have 3 minutes total. So you use your time how you'd like. If one person wants to go 1 full minute and talk, or if they want to maybe talk for 30 seconds and then get 30 seconds of reflection or feedback, that each person gets 1 minute that they can budget however they'd like, except for one of the rooms, which is going to have just 2 people in it. Actually, yeah, 2 of the rooms will have 2 people. Erica, I do have you set up to go into one of the rooms. And then we'll come back in just 3 short minutes. I'd like you to share, at minimum though, the one action that you're committed to taking coming out of our time together. See you in 3 minutes. Parents of young children and JT fans. Or both.
Great song.
Isn't
Feel
it?
good song. Yeah, it makes me want to
It
dance.
is such a good song, isn't it? Yeah.
Really is. Yeah.
By the way, the documentary about, wait, was he no, he wasn't Backstreet Boys. He was yeah, he was In Sync. Yes. The documentary about the Backstreet Boys and In Sync. Unbelievable. The backstory behind those guys. The guy who put them together was like a complete con artist who spent his whole life, like the rest of his life, in prison for Ponzi schemes. Fascinating.
What channel is it on?
I think it was on Netflix. Is where I watched it. It might have been Prime. But I can't remember. I watched it like a year ago. It's just so good. There you go. That's a random one. Hey, thank you so much. Remember that nothing changes if we don't change, right? And the world is changing fast around us. And so if you had a good time today, I'm happy. If you go out and do something different, I'm ecstatic. Okay. Here's where I'd like to finish off is 2 things. One, I'd like to just make an offer to all of you, my dear friends who are fellow trainers here with Oregon Realtors. And then second, I'd like to kind of finish on a high note with us talking about things that we can appreciate about today, that we liked about today, maybe a person you'd like to acknowledge or thank today. That would be great. But here's the offer that I'd like to make you. So my day-to-day work is I am a business coach. I do one-on-one business coaching with real estate agents and teams, as well as like insurance, lenders, those sort of folks. People who have jobs a lot like ours. Additionally, I'm a trainer. So I go into brokerages, I go into other companies. I did a dentist mastermind a few months ago. And then I'm also a board member of the National Speakers Association, which you should totally check out, the Oregon chapter of the National Speakers Association. They're amazing. But as part of that, I help speakers, we're going to do speakers, which includes us, people who are trainers, in growing their training careers, both their skill set, but then also their business building, like generating leads, generating opportunities for speaking gigs and stuff like that. If there's any way that any of that would help you, or that you would be interested in that, I'm typing right now, should have typed before the break. I would love to connect with you and would be happy to jump on, obviously a totally complimentary, no obligation call. If you want to text me at that number and say, hey, would love to connect, let's set that up in the next week. Would love to help you in any of those ways that I can, because you're just such wonderful people, and it's been so great to get to know all of you. There you go. That's it. I should have asked for more permission than that, and that's about as hard as a sell as I do anymore. It's really nice.
Can I ask everybody here to unmute for just 1 second?
Cheryl's taking over. What do we got?
Can we give Josh a round of applause?
Oh, you're so nice. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you so much.
Fist bump and
fist bump. Boom.
jazz hands.
Excellent. Well, let's finish up. I'd love for anybody, you're all off mute, so you could stay off mute and share what's something that you got out of today, what's something you appreciated, something that moved you, touched you, inspired you, or maybe somebody here that you'd like to thank or acknowledge.
Thank you, Oregon Realtors, for providing this. I think we should do it more than once a year. I got a lot out today. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Erica. Yes, let's give Erica a round.
Yes, yay.
I want to
Katie.
say thank you to Katie for
And
all
Katie.
of the hard work that she did to make it happen. Because
Yeah, yay,
Katie's
Katie.
the queen of making things happen. So thank you, Katie.
Love it.
This is my fourth Train the Trainer, I think, with Oregon Realtors, and I love them all because I pick up something new every time, but also it refreshes what I learned a few years ago and maybe forgot to implement or whatever. So it was really nice to reconnect to some faces and friends that I've made over the career and meet some new people today, and really looking forward to connecting with them some more.
Awesome. Thank you, Donna.
Yeah.
This is my first time, so I really enjoyed being here. This was really helpful for me, and it was good to meet all your faces and kind of see the vaccines. I've been in the GRI classes, but haven't led one.
Love it.
Yeah, this is my first one too. I would like this more than once a year, especially right now where our world is so fast and how we're working with it is changing. Fresh ups would be great.
Well, also too, I kind of add to this. I was with the original GRI instructors. We kind of built this together and built those original outlines. And I ended up not teaching as many things as I was eager to teach at the beginning because I couldn't find the time to create my classes. And that has been the biggest challenge for me in committing, because if I commit, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it all the way. And so I'm going, okay, this is going to take a lot of my hours during my work week away from my main job to prep for these classes and practice. And so just one suggestion and help would be if Oregon Realtors, we got the outlines, that's great, but the classes would sure be nice to have put together as a PowerPoint, a little bit more help in that matter. And or we as colleagues and peers in this kind of GRI program can reach out and help share what you've done. I'm happy to share what I've got, though I need to update it, but give away and help each other out, because we've all got our strengths and weaknesses, and I think if we can collaborate more on that level, and it's nice to connect here and put faces to names and get contact information and say, how did you present this class? Any suggestions you would do differently? Anything that you would say don't add, or I think anything we can get with that together is really helpful.
Jimmy, do you want to talk at all about PDKC in that particular comment?
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're working on, is adding more suggested content to the outlines, creating a PowerPoint template to get started with that has maybe some timing built into it for each segment, and some basic slides, and then of course allowing for the teacher to insert their own information and style to it as well. And then maybe I'd like to see some peer review too.
Yeah.
Like, let's do a meeting where we get all the instructors who teach negotiations together, and let's collaborate and build that. And same thing with each set of classes.
That'd be awesome.
Agreed.
Yeah, I love that idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Jimmy, we can talk about that next time we meet, and figure out what that looks like. And if anybody has any suggestions or ideas, please let me know, and ignore my whining dog in the background. She's got opinions. I'm talking and not at her, so she's mad.
She thinks you are.
Right. But also, I'd love to invite you all. I mean, you all give back so much already to Oregon Realtors. I almost said OAR. But I know, Josh, I'm sorry. But I would love to invite you all to be involved in the PDKC. I know, I think applications just went out for everyone for signing up for the board or for committees. And the PDKC, I mean, you all are you know this content better than anyone. So we would love to have your voice involved. She's got a lot to say. I'm just gonna, that's all. All right, thanks.
And I'm chairing PDKC next year. So thanks for that plug, Erica, to get some more volunteers to join us in that group. It's a great committee to serve on. And nothing's more important than education, in my opinion. We can never stop learning.
Well, great. Well, Erica, can I give you the last word on anything that you'd like to say to just honor and appreciate everybody who came?
Yeah, thank you.
Could I make it more awkward timing? Would you like that's actually sitting on your head?
I mean, I wish I could say that this was special for today. It's not. This is.
Are you sure that's not a monkey?
I'm not sure. She's
I
part
thought
parrot.
perhaps it was a parrot.
She's part parrot. She's part goat. She's part everything.
Part goat.
We call her Luna the lunatic because that's just, I mean, that's just what she is.
Rosie's taking a picture.
Oh, I should screenshot actually, so that I have this for. All right.
No, that's not distracting at all.
No, it's fine. Thanks, Josh. Thank you.
That's awesome.
I swear I have stronger boundaries than every other aspect.
gosh. That's in the office?
Okay.
Oh,
Come here, sweet pea. So what I wanted to close on is, you know, virtual is not gonna go away. We're gonna we're gonna keep, I'm a big advocate for virtual. I think the accessibility is incredible. I think the opportunities for and just this more space it gives our members and our instructors to live their lives and be putting on pants 2 minutes before the class, that's wonderful, and we want to keep that. I also know that there's some really strong feelings or a really strong desire to bring and keep the in-person, so that's also not going anywhere. I'm taking my time on bringing it back because I don't want to plan all these in-person classes to have that go up in smoke again. But we will. So if you have a really strong preference to being in person and you really want to focus on being in person, or you have a really strong preference to online, we asked that in the survey, but you can continue to let me know and we'll make sure to keep that balanced. She's walking on the desk now. But I want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you to Josh so much for presenting this class. Josh, I love being able to speak to you and brainstorm with you. I really appreciate all your contributions to Oregon Realtors this basically since I started this job. You were one of my first regular phone calls. And I want to say thank you to everyone here again for just being fantastic and so flexible and resilient through this year. So thank you so much. And Luna also says thank you.
Thank you.
Luna the backpack dog.
All right. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Have an amazing day. Go out, take action on those commitments that you made, and we'll see you around the bend.
Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
And we'll go out with
Bye,
Uptown
everybody.
Funk, I think.
Thanks, Josh.
Chris, oh, bye, Chris. All right.
Hold on just a second. Hey,
Okay.
how was that
Thank
for
you,
you?
Josh. That was great.
Yeah. That's a
So-
squirrely
I'm
group.
sorry, Luna stole the show.
No, that's okay. That's a squirrely group. If you go back and watch the recording, we go into a breakout, and I didn't realize it was recording me, and my mic is on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm losing them. Where am I gonna go next? They were so I didn't usually at the beginning. It's a struggle to get people to engage. So I go over the top, getting people to engage. This group started engaging, and I was like, whoa, slow down, slow your roll, because they weren't engaging they were talking about cameras and microphones the first 3 minutes, and I'm
I
going,
know.
this is not where we want to go. But
I'm
was
gonna
able
turn
to
off the
get
recording really quick.
oh yeah. Oh.